Hey guys, okay. So, as you've primarily probably figured out by now, I will give the info, but I'm not the best at editing, right? If it was up to me, each video would look like a Teal Swan video. Um, and yes, I would be a woman as well. So, no, but seriously, her videos are good, like high production value, all that stuff. So, what I'm going to do though is I'm going to do what I can do, and I'm going to give you guys the information I can give you in this format, okay? So, I'm just trying to think here. We talked a little bit about last time, we talked about the different abilities, like psychic abilities, and I felt like I was kind of scattered in that video. It was a good video, I felt, but I kind of need to link things together a little bit better from start to end. And so that's what's great about YouTube, that's what's great about growing and experiencing, life, is that you can try to explain things a little bit more simpler and not so convoluted, right? And not kind of putting things out of place. So to start off, we're going to talk about like developing as a psychic or a medium or anything else. So here's sort of how the journey has been for me. So one day I woke up, right? And I just knew I could do mediumship work. Okay, and this isn't me giving myself a pat on the back and I'll explain to you the whole thing, but I just knew I could. I had this feeling that I'm like, okay, I can do it. And for some reason, nothing told me that I couldn't do it, right? And I feel like I'm someone who struggles with that kind of confidence, that level of confidence just seemed really weird. It's like, imagine waking up and all of a sudden you're just the best used car salesman ever. It just doesn't happen. Like you just, but for some reason I had that and I was like, okay, I can do this. And I was feeling really confident, right? And I start doing mediumship readings for people, and I'm able to get little bits of information, what the person looks like, and for a couple weeks that was going on, right? And what actually happens when you first start out, a lot of people will be what's called a natural medium, where they don't even have to try, it's just there and they can just use it, right? But then over time, for some reason, we just start to doubt ourselves, and we start to be hard on ourselves, and we start to question the ability, and we wonder where it comes from and all of that stuff. So that's what happened with me. And now I'm working on building up that mediumship again, and it's actually fairly difficult for me to reach the level of mediumship to communicate with spirits at this point in time, but I'm trying. I'm listening to courses, I'm trying to figure out my own way of doing things and doing that. And that's the best thing about becoming a psychic or a medium or anywhere in between, is that you want to focus on you, right? And however you're unfolding, whatever resonates with you, no matter what you're doing, take it with you. If it doesn't make sense to you, don't take it with you. It's as simple as that. You don't have to do something you don't want to do. So with that being said, I feel like that's how a lot of us start out. We have we have a knack for it at first, and we're really good at it. And then, we're like, okay, well, how does it work? Why does it work? What's going on? And when we go through those processes, we kind of deconstruct what we had before, because the whole thing with psychic abilities is that they just work. You don't have to look at them. You don't have to do anything like that. But the mind likes to focus on something, right? And sometimes it's like, well, what the hell are we doing? What is this even? And so we learn about it, and we learn that it can actually be kind of a rare ability to have, and we learn that it can take a long time to master. And we start to question ourselves, and we start to kind of go back to the first level where we're just more of a sensitive to things and we're not so intuitive, and then we kind of have to build back up from there. The difference is, though, when we start over, is that we have to start from a place where we're centered and we're grounded. So grounding exercises, meditation is incredibly important with psychic work. And depending on what you want to do, that can go into a bunch of different fields. For me personally, what I specialize in is helping people heal from trauma and helping people heal from pain. And it's not me that's doing it. It's the universal power, whatever you want to call it, source, God, whatever you want to call it. And I know that, I'll go off here just for a second. I know that God is kind of a hot button issue, right? Some people don't want to call it that. Others don't have a problem with it. So that's why I always use another word for it instead of that, because some people are not comfortable with it. Maybe some people were raised in religious conditioning and they don't want to be that way anymore. So God to them could have a negative connotation. So I can understand that. So that's why I come and I say universal power, love, source, whatever it happens to be. So, So when we're, like, my ability, for instance, is I can help people heal from trauma, from emotional trauma, and we go into the chakras and we actually start releasing old energies and ways of thinking. And we start to release something called the observer, right? And the observer is a person that is you, but it's like whenever you're in a situation, you can kind of step outside of yourself for just a second and you can look at what you're doing and you can understand yourself better. You can start to analyze mental patterns better. That's what my work allows me to help people with, is that they can start to take a step back, realize what they're doing, what's going on, and then start to incorporate that into themselves. It's not easy, it's not fun, but it's a transformation. And transformation is always sort of the dying off of the old and the coming into the new. And when you're in between the two places of transformation, of rebirth and death, it's very, very uncomfortable. Because during that time, we run into sort of an identity crisis. We can't identify with who we're becoming because we don't know who that is yet. And we don't feel like we belong with who we once were because it's dying. And so we're in this place where we're raw and we're vulnerable and we're new. And there can be a lot of feelings and energy that starts to release. This is where our identity starts to come into play. Our ego attaches itself to how old we are, our gender, the mask we put on with society. It attaches ourselves to all these different labels. Okay, at the end of the day, we're energy. That's it. Labels don't help us with anything. It further separates us. Labels don't really help. So if someone said, what is it that you do? I like the term light worker. Okay, I don't want to put labels on things. If I had to, an energy healer, I suppose. But when we're coming from this way of thinking, when we're coming from this point of view of this new identity that's coming into play, we have to realize that first off, we have to give ourselves time to accept the new identity. And this goes for not just working with me, this goes for working with energy in general. This goes for being a light worker. This goes for awakening in the first stages of it. You're going to go through several awakenings, or what's called dark nights of the soul. And it's where you start to realize the truth of things. And it's where you start to open up and you start to let yourself see the truth, okay? And that can be difficult because for a long time we're told what the truth is. And when we actually find out what it is, when we start to understand the bigger picture, it can be difficult because we have to realize that a lot of lies have been told. We've been deceived in a lot of ways. And the things that really matter, it's not money, it's not anything like that. It's time, it's connection, it's people, okay? It's relationships that matter. Because I can tell you right now, if I was on my deathbed, I wouldn't be saying, I wish I made $5 more today. I'd be thinking about something else, okay? I'd be thinking about the things that really mattered and if I accomplished those things in my life. And society tends to feel like we're holding on to two extremes. We want to be ourselves, we want to make money, we want to do this, but I'm kind of going everywhere again. But basically what I'm trying to say is when you start to awaken, you start to come into your own power, whether it's from a session with me, from your own working or whatever, you're going to go through these changes. And when it starts to happen, it's important to question things and to be gentle with yourself with the answer. If you don't know it, that's okay. If you're doing a behavior that you would find rather apprehensive, disgusting, gross, whatever it happens to be, look at it, understand why you're doing it. Don't judge yourself harshly during this period. This is a time for you to grow. And when we judge and we criticize ourselves harshly, we allow ourselves to not grow. We're saying, okay, we're not going to grow from this because we're disgusted with ourselves. We're feeling this sense of like, I'm disgusting. Why am I here? What am I doing? No, we focus on the healing effect. We focus on the fact that we have to turn that voice in our heads into a positive force. We have to turn it into this thing where it's not critical. And working with me or having your own spiritual awakening, you'll start to slowly see those patterns. Okay, that's the whole point, is that we see patterns and we connect the dots between the two, and we can start to be like, okay, I'm upset today because of this. For me personally, the last couple years, going through an emotional process where I didn't understand anything that was going on inside of me, guys. I didn't understand a damn thing, and it frustrated me. I felt numb. I constantly felt like I couldn't feel anything. And I felt like emotions were for other people. And people that had emotions, I thought that was kind of crazy because I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the emotional ebb and flow. I didn't understand the waves that people go through. I was an earth sign, okay? And I was stubborn. and I just wasn't allowing myself to grow in that way. And then a lot of experiences happened, ayahuasca ceremony, the passing of a friend, and just having to be there for people happened. And when all of that happened and all of that culminated into one experience, it started to open me up further and further, and it started to show me what is out there. Okay? And that's the important thing, is that you have to let yourself go through your journey at your own time. I said in the last video, don't set time limits for yourself on spiritual growth or anything like that. Instead, focus on how much love you can give, because that is the universal code. That's the way the universe speaks, is in terms of love. And for us to do that, we have to have that love for ourselves. And that comes from within. It can't come from any object or anything else. It comes from having the tools and the resources to depend on ourselves, and understanding that we can also be there for other people once we're there for ourselves first. Okay? And I know that these kinds of abilities, they seem far-fetched. They seem kind of mystical. And I do honestly believe that we had these abilities, all of us, at one point in time. And then as things slowly turned into the way it is now, into this indoctrinated society, it turned into this really rare thing where, only one out of every so many people has it, has any kind of gift. And you have to be born with it, and you have to have, you have to have 10 degrees from 10 different schools in all of these different things, because people love the labels. People love to label themselves as a certified healer or a certified psychic or whatever it happens to be. And we kind of fall in love more with the labels than we do with the helping of people, right? And I know this is kind of going on a rant here. This is kind of just going everywhere, but this is just how I feel that where we're in now, right? Because this is what I do for a living. I focus on helping people, and I focus on trying to understand people more. And this is coming from someone who had a very difficult time relating with people for a very long time. And I still do, right? But I'm working on it. I'm working on trying to do something a little bit more connection-based with you guys. So generally speaking, what we do when we're working together on a session, because I do want to go into that, and then we'll go into the clair abilities. But what we do when we're working on a session is that it's me and you, okay, and we're going to focus on clearing the energy channels, or the chakras. When we do that, we're going to focus on each one. I'll guide you through each one, and we focus on it, and then we start to do we eventually bring in some breathing exercises into it, and we eventually are releasing energy that no longer serves us. This, I would say, like 97% of the people that work with me have a very good experience. The other 3%, I feel like they're not ready for it, right? And it's something that if you feel called to do this, to work with me, please do it. But if you don't feel like you have to, or don't feel pressured or anything like that, because it's a journey, right? Some people do this themselves. Some people seek the help of others. And either way, it doesn't matter. You guys are still doing you, and that's awesome. And I couldn't ask for anything more, okay? So we work together, we clear the energy centers, we talk about kind of what's going on in your life if you want to talk about that. If not, we really spend time on clearing the energy centers, okay? That's usually the first session. Second session, we're bringing in a little bit of breathing exercises. We're focusing on energy. We're focusing on feeling a little bit more of the energy. We're focusing on what that feels like. And eventually we build up enough energy that we can feel our guides, that we can connect with something other than ourselves. We can feel the aura around our body. We can start to understand, and we can start to feel that. All I'm doing, you guys, is I'm giving you the space to explore yourselves. That's really it. My guides do a lot of the work, and I'm just holding a space for you guys to explore yourselves. It's like the universe closing in on itself. It's the universe experiencing itself, right? And that's what I'm allowing you guys to do. Then that's all I do. I'm a facilitator for the space. You guys are doing the work, and I can guide you through the process. And I love watching that. I love how you guys are growing and how you guys are expanding, and I've seen it over and over again in what I'm doing with you guys, and it's beautiful. It really is. I can see that the people that really want to grow and they really put in the work, the efforts they receive are immense. And you can get rid of old dogmatic beliefs. You can start to understand yourself better, and you can start to see that this stuff is indeed real and it has an actual impact on society and the world in general, because it's such a different way of experiencing things. It's like life 2.0. It's life in ultra HD. It's living in the present moment, being in the present moment, and then expanding into it and understanding it in a way that's just absolutely beautiful, you guys. That's the main thing, right? It's just so beautiful and so just so amazing. And it's funny, right? Because when I do my videos on the tarot stuff, I noticed I was getting a lot of views. I was getting tons of people watching and tons of people tuning in, and I loved having you guys tune in. But then I would see things where people would say, you know, they've been through hurtful relationships, and they would say hurtful things on the channel, not to me, but to the person that they were in a relationship with, or whatever it happened to be. And I was realizing, okay, these guys are in pain. These guys are going through something. And if I can help in some way, if me and my guides can help in some way as to alleviate that pain, I would love to do that. Because tarot readings, they're amazing, and they're an absolutely amazing tool to have. But if we need to go deeper, let's go deeper. Let's look further, right? And tarot can be an awesome source for healing. I absolutely believe that. But for me personally, I'm more comfortable working with energy. I'm more comfortable working with that. And tarot is something I'm not as confident in, but I still do enjoy using the tarot, right? There are absolutely amazing tarot readers out there. I'm not saying anything against that, because it's an amazing medium to use. Spiritually, it tells so many stories, and you can help so many people with it. So if you guys are tarot readers, I salute you, because it actually is a pretty difficult job, to be honest. It's one of those that can be really, really difficult, really challenging, meeting deadlines, making sure your videos are out when they need to be, and doing sessions as well. It can be difficult. It can be hard to have a life besides that. It can be very difficult. And so, yeah, you guys, I'm here to tell you, you are all doing really good. And now that we've gone through about 17 minutes of what I consider to be a really lengthy introduction to part 2, that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so I talked about this yesterday. I'm excited, you can tell, because I can't think. So that's how you know. So yesterday we talked about the clair abilities a little bit. This time we're going to go into a little more detail into the clair abilities. So, first one, we're going to be focusing on clairvoyance. Okay, clairvoyance is in the third eye space, right? We talked about making the screen in front of you, and we talked about seeing the visions that way. The way this works, the way psychic ability works, to me really well, is you can almost craft a vehicle with your imagination, and then you can have the psychic ability go into that, and it animates whatever it was you were thinking about psychically. That's a little bit more advanced, but when we do that, we can start to get really good details into what it is we're looking for. So, and I'll explain that probably in part 6 or 7, but right now we're going to talk about the clair abilities. Clairvoyance is clear seeing, okay? This is usually the secondary ability that a lot of people have, but usually the primary ability is clairsentience, which is clear feeling, which is being able to walk into a room, and even if there's no one in the room, you can still pick something up. You're like, I don't like being here. Or, this is the weirdest feeling. This is like a corporate environment, but I really like this space. I don't know why. And it's because of the energy that's imprinted the space. So if people were arguing and having fights, and you know, there was a murder or something that happened, you would not like that space. You'd be like, okay, I don't like this. I don't know why I don't like this, but I don't like it, right? And you guys tell me your experiences with that below, because it's really interesting to hear about this kind of stuff. So then you have, on the other hand, this is a nice environment. It's really cozy. I'd want to raise a family in this home kind of environment, right? But it all goes into this space of feeling, of not just feeling other people's energy, but feeling environmental energy. And at first, it's overwhelming. And if you work with me directly, we can talk about how to take that ability, we can talk about how to take that sensitivity, turn it into a strength, because we're building up the energy body. And when we build up the energy body, we start to set boundaries. When we start to set boundaries, we start to say no to certain kinds of energy, and we start to not attach ourselves to those. Like I say when I'm talking with people and we're doing our sessions, I want you to imagine... Hold on. I feel like I have to sneeze. Hold on a second. Okay, see, now that makes it look like I'm a liar, right? Because I didn't sneeze, but I felt it. Okay, so here's what we do. We focus on building up the energy body, and I want you guys to imagine it like this. Okay, imagine you are a sponge. Okay, we have a sponge in my hand. Imagine that this is who it is. Imagine that there is dirty water, which is like narcissistic energy. It's all the energy you don't like, okay? And then imagine over here that there's clean water, okay? I have the sponge. I'm a sponge, so it doesn't matter. I'm not going to discern. I'm just going to absorb. So here's what I do. I take this. I go into the dirty water. I'm going to absorb that water because I'm a sponge, okay? If I go into the clean water, I'm going to absorb that too because, again, I am a sponge. I can't discern. I can't separate. So what we can do is we can go into the energy body, and instead of having it absorb all this energy, because perception is a human concept. Perception is absolutely human. Good and evil does not exist. It's perception that makes it so. So when we're focusing on that, we can focus on starting to say yes to the energies we want and no to the energies we don't want. And when we do that, we set boundaries and we're telling the universe in a definitive stance what it is that we actually do want. And that's what we can focus on too. Usually within the first few sessions, that's kind of the main point of that we're focusing on, because a lot of you guys that I work with are having trouble in your life setting boundaries, and you're having trouble understanding why you feel drained when you go out to the store or a theater, or why it's hard to be social in certain situations, like why it's really difficult, right? And so we'll talk about that too. If you guys want to do sessions with me, we can absolutely focus on that, because that is a huge problem in today's world. And I have it too, where I get overwhelmed. If I don't do the energetic exercises, I go to the store, I start getting overwhelmed really fast, okay? Started talking over myself there, which was weird, but... so yeah, there's that. And then, so clairsentience, empathy, basically. That's what that one's about. Clairvoyance is seeing with the third eye, and a lot of people, they get psychic information from just feeling. So if you're someone that doesn't really see but you feel, go with that. Say what you're feeling. Be like, okay, I feel this, I feel this, I feel this. And when you start to work on feeling, and you start to work on channeling that feeling energy, you'll be able to say something like, well, I can feel the color blue. I can feel the color yellow. I can feel that this person's a woman. I can feel that, because that's what mediumship does, is that you take your energy and you can feel a person. You can feel that energy. And it's the same thing with clairsentience. You're feeling that someone is 75. You're feeling that their favorite color is blue. You're feeling that they live in Kentucky. You're feeling, right? And so you can build that up and make it stronger. It doesn't have to be this thing that's like this mysterious force and this weird thing like you can't control it, or you can't make it better, or you can't do anything like that. No, you can absolutely... Yep, okay. You can absolutely have it happen, okay? So, clairvoyance we talked about, and then clairaudience is clear hearing, and it usually deals with the throat chakra. So this is being able to listen to people, and this is being able to say what's on your mind in a non-hurtful way, okay? Saying what's on your mind isn't, well, you're an asshole, okay? That's not saying what's on your mind. That's just being mean, right? Because someone has probably been mean to you, and so you say that, and then nothing gets resolved. It's just hate on top of hate, and nothing gets resolved. And some people you have to walk away from because you're not going to be able to talk to them. You're just not, and that is a painful realization. But once we start to understand that it deals with clairaudience, which is clear hearing, then we can focus on what it is we're saying, what it is we're meaning. We can focus on starting to build that. And the way that you build any of these abilities, the way that you really focus on building these abilities up, is you have to immerse yourself in whatever it is you're doing. So, like today, for instance, I went outside, I laid in the grass, and I looked up at the tree up above me, and it was swaying back and forth, the sunlight, hitting the leaves, the petals and the leaves and stuff. And it was really nice to be able to enjoy that, to be able to be outside and enjoy that. And the more that we put ourselves in the present moment, and the more that we feel, the stronger we're going to get impressions, the stronger we're going to build our abilities up. So For instance, the way you would build up clairvoyance is really noticing things in the environment. Not just glancing over them, but really noticing details. Notice license plates when you're driving, or if you're a passenger. Notice the details in life. See what's going on. Have yourself be open, okay? And with clairaudience, it's hearing. What can you hear? What's going on? Basically, you're taking your attention and you're putting it into a sense and you're letting that go out, because that is what we're doing when we're psychically doing this. We're psychically putting our ears out there. We're psychically putting our eyes out there. Okay, and we're psychically taking the aura, we're putting it out there, we're expanding it, we're seeing what we're feeling. So that's what we're doing here. And it's the same thing with clairsentience. How do you feel more? You talk to yourself and you see what's going on inside of your own body. And you start to understand the patterns and you start to understand what's going on there. And then from that, you can start to see how you interact with other people. You can start to see how you interact with your environment. You can start to understand that. The more that we put into ourselves, self-investment, the more these abilities are going to grow. That's just the truth. And people that are really good writers, people that are really good actors, they're able to immerse themselves into whatever it is that they're doing, and they're able to write and they're able to channel this kind of information, and that's because they're using psychic ability. They're allowing themselves to experience it. They're allowing themselves to live through the character, to write in a way where there's no borders, where there's no boundaries, and that is what psychic connection is all about. So then we have claircognizance, which we'll talk about. It is the best way to describe it is you just know something. When we say just know something, it's like I'm talking to you and I'm doing a psychic reading, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, the name Steve came up, and I'm feeling that there's like a rock and roll concert, or I'm feeling that there's something like that. And that can be clairsentience as well. Claircognizance is just knowing. Like, how would you put this? So clairsentience is feeling, claircognizance is just knowing. Like, you would say to someone like this, like, I woke up and I knew I could do psychic, like mediumship, right? That's claircognizance. I don't know where the confidence came from, but claircognizance makes it so you don't doubt yourself for a second. And I loved that. I loved being in that space because I didn't doubt myself at all. And I've never really had that before, where I just was totally going for it, and I just knew. And that's what claircognizance is. You just know. You don't question yourself. You don't say, no, that's wrong. You don't do any of that. You just tell the person, okay, this is how it is. And even if you have no idea what that information means to you, you're still confident that what you're saying is true, and you go with that. That's what claircognizance is. And how it feels is it's a sense of... Sorry, you guys. So how it feels is it's a sense of, again, just knowing. Generally, there's not a spiritual presence around when you're doing this. It's more of like you just know. You're just kind of tapped in, so to speak. And that's through the crown chakra that comes in, and it just goes right into your little brain hole, and then you go whoop right out into your mouth hole. Okay, so that's what's going on there. If you guys don't know what a brain hole is, look it up. No, don't, because I don't know what that's going to do. Okay. There's some other ones too, but those are kind of the more main ones. There's clairgustance, which is, if I can remember, I think clairgustance is clear tasting. So I've done work with people where someone has died from a gunshot, I think it was. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I could taste blood. Okay, I could taste blood in my mouth pretty strong. Another person died from cancer, and I could taste rottenness in my mouth. It just, not good. Like, I could taste something, and it was horrible. It was just this awful taste. And other things can happen too, where you can taste and you can experience and you can feel the emotions. When we're working with spirits especially, they try to impress us with images or with things that we can relate to. So the stronger the relation, the more we can get across a message. So some of these spirits come in super, super strong, and they give you a really powerful message, and you're like, okay, back off. I need a second. But when we're working with psychic ability, we're generally focusing more on those 3 abilities. Some people are really good at clairgustance, where they can taste, or I can't remember, clair, the one with clair olfactory, I think is what I've heard it called. I know there's another name for it, but it's where you can smell. So you have clear smelling, and you can smell, for instance, maybe a spirit has a smell of roses, or maybe the spirit has a smell of birthday cake, or maybe the spirit has the smell of like old leather or something like that. That can be something too, or an old perfume, or an old like Old Spice body wash kind of smell, or whatever it happens to be. So, with that being said, you guys, this is part 2, and I know we kind of went everywhere. The reason I'm touching on so many topics is I want you guys to comment, tell me what it is you'd want to know, and we can go from there. And as always, if you want to work with me, please let me know. And yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Have an awesome day, and I hope to hear from some of you guys soon. Okay, bye.